change it.
All right. Welcome to day 3 of Halves. We have 4 teams who will be presenting their progress up to this point in the semester, their plans for the future. We'll have 15 minutes. I'll be keeping the time over here, so watch me. We have about 5 minutes for questions and answers. I believe we're also streaming. So any clients who are watching on the stream, any clients in the audience, welcome. And with that, we're ready to go? All right.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon. We are Team Moon Rovers. We are introducing a multi-VR game for you. This project is led by Cheryl and Scott. And this is a series of the 3rd one that we have with Mike Hennessy from Moonshot Museum. He's also watching our live stream now. And we are creating a multi-VR game to immerse middle school students and to also expose them for a wide variety of space careers. The story is set in 2050s throughout a series of explorations on the moon. We are changing the environment by building up settlements and planting inside a dome. Our inspirations come from the on-site visit in the Moonshot Museum, as well as the past ETC projects. As we mentioned, previous 2 projects, they are exploring for prototypes, potential interactions, and experience for the Moonshot Museum. And this semester, we're excited that we're actually installing our project inside the Moonshot Museum. And now, let's take a look at our demo video with our key features in the prototypes. So 2 of the players will drive 1 single rover. One of them is operating the robotic arm, and the other is driving the body. As you see, the color-coded is just for the testing for the mechanics of the rover. They will start with collecting minerals as necessary elements that they need for building up different settlements. And you can see the orange light here shows that the rover is observing the elements. And this is a prototype of showing the rover sending out seeds to plants inside the dome.
Yeah, here are 4 key features in our game. As Nina said, our story happens in 2050s, so the near future setting will inspire guests to envision and imagine the future and become more interested in lunar exploration. And exploring the surface of the moon is one of the core gameplay we have. And through exploration, guests can collect the elements and water ice on the moon. And also, we are a 2-player collaboration game. So 1 player controls the moon rover, 1 player controls the robotic arm. And they need to work together to complete the mission more efficiently. And in the process of the game, some settlements will auto-populated as rewarding feedback for the guests. The guests need to collect as much materials as possible to build high-level settlements on the moon. Guests can try to build the most advanced moon bases by playing our game multiple times. And here are our game flow. And in the start, as you can see here is the starting scene. And after player clicks start button, a moon lander will take off from the Earth and fly into the sky. And the lander will stop in front of the player, and the 2 UI elements will pop up. And this is role selection UI for the player. They can choose the role between robotic arm and the moon rover. And the second state of our game is mining and deploying. And for this state, we're going to have 2 levels. The first level, the player are using a drill on the moon rover to dig minerals. And you can see this is the energy bar for the rover, and this is the element collecting bar for the rover. And for the level 2, here is our concept art. And the player can upgrade the moon rover, can upgrade the grill to a laser. And they can use a laser gun to digging the minerals more efficiently, and also they can deploying solar panels in suitable places as set quest. And building a moon city is another aspect of our game. So in the process of exploration, the player can go back to the base and deliver the materials and elements they collect to build settlements for the moon base. And also in the end of this stage, they can build a big dome to protect the whole city. the last step of our game is planting. So the two players can plant trees and grasses into in the dome to transform the moon surface into a more sustainable and suitable places environment for human being. Yeah, and let's just talk about our art.
Thank you, Albert. So for our art on the settlements, we created the chemistry lab, main base, atmosphere creator, and the generator. These are our current progress. And this is our moon rover concept art. Here is our moon rover progression and iteration based on our client feedback and the play test. And for digging the minerals, we created the body of the mineral and two versions of the broken one and two fragments of the debris. Next, we have Kira to talk about the UI UX.
Thank you, Jen. Here's the game UX flow. And this is page that players say when they first enter the game. And when they click the start button, and they can choose the character player 1 or player 2. The player 1 will control the robotic arm, and the player 2 will control the rover. And here's the some design elements for the rover's energy and the minerals. And next we have Jimmy to talk about tech part.
So for the tech part, our biggest challenge is to combine VR and networking into our game. So we use a networking SDK named Photon Fusion, which enables one player to control the rover and the other to control the robotic arm on two ends simultaneously so that they can collaborate with each other. And one important feature of our game is digging the mineral. So we built the landscape using Unity's terrain tool and deploy different kinds of minerals on it. And we also made a progress bar above the mineral based on the playtest feedback, since most players want to see how much they have dig and how much they have left. And as for the digging part, we actually made two versions. The first version is to actually cut the mesh and dig it piece by piece or even blow it up. And the advantage of it is, of course, it's realistic and physics-based. However, during the playtest, most players tend to spend too much time drilling the mineral in level 1. As a result, we made the version 2 of the digging, which is to split the digging process into 3 stages, and we use different tricks such as VFX and spawning debris to simulate the digging experience. With this improvement, we can precisely control the timing of each digging stage, and while providing a fulfilling experience. And the other feature of our game is the growing of the plants. So currently we made these vein-like plants using a particle system, and later we'll add more species such as trees and flowers into our game. So that's all for the tech part.
So throughout the first part of the semester, we have been done several playtests with our faculty members, alumni, also playtest nights. We're also testing with our target audience, which are the middle school students. And also people who visit the Moonshot Museum, students, we test with our client and also astrobotic experts and also science center people. And our testing method is to have the guests testing in the VR headset, having a sense of the basic mechanics, how the perspective, how to drive the rover inside the VR headset. And then they will go to the station of the laptop that we have, which have all the basic mechanics of the game design. They will try out all the interactions and then play through the game. We have been testing the VR networking start at the beginning of the semester, and most of the game design already implement under the VR networking, which make the rest half of the semester much easier for all of them to implement into the VR headsets. And throughout the playtest, we have received a lot of valuable feedbacks, which refines our experience much better.
So according to the playtest feedback, many players would like to choose the camera angles from the rover by themselves. Some wanted to be closer and others want to be further away. As a result, we came up with the camera settings. The closer up camera adds to the immersion and at the same time make the players feel more like they are exploring the moon, while the further away camera angles give the players more information and also avoid having motion sickness. The players will be able to choose the preferred camera angle in the settings. Also, during the playtest, we noticed that the experience balance between the rover driver and the robotic arm operator need to be adjusted. The driving part is throughout the whole game, so the rover driver are taking a predominant position in the gameplay and will take much more parts in the game than the arm operator. So the solution we came up is the arm operator can scan and know where the mineral is, so the arm operator can communicate with the rover driver and lead him to the place where the mineral is. And in order to let the player feel a better sense of ownership, we came up with the system of personalization. Players will be able to name their rovers, color the rover parts they control, and even naming and coloring the city or settlement they build together.
So to sum up, we are creating a two-player VR game for middle school students, and this project will be installed in the Moonshot Museum, and the length is around 5 to 10 minutes. And all the students will watch the projection of what people actually see inside the VR headset in the little theater inside the Moonshot Museum, so that all of them can enjoy and celebrate together to figure out what's the best experience that we wish to have so that this could be replayable. And that's all for our presentation, and now we're open for questions.
So I noticed the prototype aesthetic looked a bit different than some of the concept art that you were showing for the subsequent levels. Can you talk a little bit about the artistic goals of the experience? What are you trying to accomplish in terms of the imagery?
So because it is a VR-based game, it cannot be like, we cannot make it like hyper-realistic. So the art direction we are going to is like more stylized. And the concept art we are doing right now is just basically to illustrate what things going to be included in our game in the future.
I think to sum up, the overall high-level answer will be the art style will be stylized and also creative, colorful, which is our client really wish to immerse the students with all the colorful image and also stylized. That's the reason why we're creating our own rover, which will be more futuristic, will be possible in the near future rather than the exact actual model that we're using.
So you're operating this vehicle remotely, right? And I don't know if there's even sound in space, so maybe, or on the moon, so maybe you wouldn't even hear it. But still, are you considering sound?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, we are considering sound, and because we are going to have a atmosphere generator. Yeah, so the basic reason that sound cannot exist in moon is that there is no air. But the first settlements we are going to have is atmosphere generator. So we are going to do this. So after the generator is done, there will be sound like surrounding the player. But before that, there is no sound, or it's only BGM for the starting scene, but not in the game. Yeah.
So for the level design you're designing for the two players, right now it feels like they take turns, like one person spots a gem and then the other person drives over to get it and then the first person breaks it up. So is there any situation you see where there's more cooperation, where they're both acting at the same time instead of taking turns like that?
So for now, all the minerals you can see in our demo is on the ground. But maybe, but later we are going to have some minerals that on the high ground. So maybe the moon rover controller needs to drive the rover to suitable places, and the player who controls the robotic arm need to reach to the minerals on the high place to dig that. So that's how they cooperate in the level 2 game. But for the level 1, you are right. It's just more like they are taking turns to do their things. Yeah.
You mentioned that this will all be displayed on a screen outside so other people can watch, and then you also mentioned replay value. Does the game randomize things? Like, how is it different for someone who's been watching? Are they gonna get the same magic of discovery as someone who's been playing it for a while?
Yeah, so we do have some design for the replayability. As you can see here for this UI, for each element there are 3 stars. That is the amount that the player collect the elements. So let's say if for the first elements, which is aluminum, if I collect 1 star and I get a 1-star chemistry lab, and if level 1 chemistry lab, and if I collect like two stars amount of aluminum, I can create a level 2 chemistry lab. And each elements they are related to a certain kind of settlements in the moon base. So every player, they will have their own moon bases based on how much elements they have collected. So like each player, like they all want to have the most advanced moon base, so they need to play the game multiple times.
I just have a question about how the game's physically going to be deployed in this space. So when you're playtesting, it looks like you're having crowds like in a corner of the room playing it, but then it said that you were going to show it on the big screen in the little theater. So I'm wondering, is this like a scheduled activity that then people come and play for 10 minutes in a group before they're let out into the museum? Or is it something that people are going to stop by and play a little bit and then walk on and do something else? I'm just trying to figure out the actual context in which it's going to be used in this space.
So usually Halmonsha Museum, they will have a lot of scheduled programs and group of people visiting the Monsha Museum. They'll also just walk-by visitors. Usually this game will be kind of like a schedule, and definitely for the players playing itself. But for the projection, for the audience, they can just watch and then they can just explore inside the Monsha Museum.
Okay, so the projection takes place outside of that theater is what you're saying, so they can see it.
Inside the theater, but that door could be opened.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yes.
Thank you, that makes
They
it clear.
have designed this so smartly inside the Monsha Museum so that they can use the space really wisely.
Thanks.
Thanks, team.
Hi, we're Team High Cave, and welcome to our presentation. And this is our project, Shroom Hats. So let me go through the agenda real quick. We're gonna do a short team introduction and talk about the project overview first, and then we're gonna showcase our demo video to you guys, and then I'll hand it over to our programmer, game designer, and artist to talk about the tech, game design, and art styles and assets. And last but not least, I'm gonna do the conclusion. Okay, so team introduction. This is our team photo. And let me introduce Mike first. He's the programmer of the team. And then Candice is our environment artist and rigging artist. And Lydia is our gameplay designer, also gameplay programmer. And CC is our UX designer and gameplay designer. And Alex is our character artist and environment artist. And I'm the producer. And we have Mike and Scott as our instructors, and Steve Audio as our client. Okay, so project overview. Shroom Heads is a two-player stereoscopic gaming cavern. In our game, players will take roles as moles, collecting and stacking the mushroom hats on their heads. Our project is a technical exploration of enhancing two players' interactions in the cavern space with head tracking. And next, we're gonna do our demo video real quick.
So since we're a technical exploration project, I'm gonna talk about our tech breakdown. So our project is the first to ever implement achieve parallax in the cavern. Parallax meaning that, as humans, when you move around in the scene, your view of the environment actually changes as you move with it. Previous games in a cavern, although they are also very visually appealing, does not have this effect of parallax because they simply do not have head tracking. So with head tracking, we're able to achieve a strong depth effect, which makes player very immersive. And our second technical challenge is we have to do number one, which is the parallaxing, but for two players as well. So that's pretty abstract, but here's a demonstration of what's the world gonna look like without head tracking or the parallax effect. As you can see, as the player moves, nothing in the world actually moves this. And the first person view also stays the same. But with head tracking, in the first person view, it's like, the world moves this as you move, and you can actually see all sides of the mushroom, and the depth is very clear as well. The right is the spectator's view. It looks a bit distorted, but our game is made solely for the players, the two players themselves. So actually, in their vision, which is the left, it looks the world looks just fine. And in quarters, we received some critiques about the parallax isn't working as intended. We iterate on that, and now it's working exactly right. And if we place a cube inside a cavern space, and then in first-person view, it will just be like as if this cube is right in your head, and as you move across it, you can see all its different surfaces. So so basically, our technical have a lot of successes, and we need some optimization because the cavern itself we have tracking is very costly. We optimize that, and we will continue to maintain wiki documents so that later teams don't need to go through the same struggles as we did. Also, the parallax looks great visually, and then split two-player head tracking also works fine as well as joint.
So let's talk about the design. Again, these are the requirements from our clients. We are doing a two-player game with head tracking on, and also the two-player will have to separate to do their own tasks at some times, and then join together to collaborate again at some point of the game. So what's the challenge? First, we don't want this to happen. We're two players standing really far from each other, but they're looking at the same spot. Because cavern is just one giant screen. We can't have two vision for both players. We want this, where two players are looking at separate different directions, or this. They stand really close to each other and then looking at the same spot. That is something we can do with the joint head tracking.
Okay, so here I'm going to talk about our game design here. So we are having a two-player visible screens in Cavern, and the players will be two moles. They separately will pick up different kinds of mushrooms, and together they will take a car ride together. And we chose our main character to be a mole because moles have much lower perspective than humans. In the quarters, we have our main character to be human beings, but at that time, the things that are interactive are bamboos. As you know, like bamboos are kind of too high and kind of clipped in the environment, so that will ruin the vibe of immersiveness. And for moles, they don't have the interactive objects will be much slower, so it not be clipped. And then after our main characters settled down, we thought about what are our main interactions in the game. We chose it to be picking up mushrooms because the interactions we want here is to making use of the head tracking and also the negative space. And by picking up mushrooms, we can place different kind of mushrooms in a different place of the cavern so that the players can discover and experience the cavern more. And also, before our two-player gameplay got implemented, we invited 5 playtesters to our playtest session, just to give us a sense of does they like the game, and is there any interactions we can improve in the future for the two-player game. And we got a lot of valuable feedback saying that maybe the bamboos can be more in the forest to rise the vibe of immersiveness, and also thinking about implementing a mechanism for competing for 2 players. So we as a team discussed a lot of that and how to improve our design based on the feedbacks. And then so within a few weeks, we solved all of the feedback questions and the ideas they proposed. And after our two-player game got implemented, we invited more friends to test it. They seemed pretty like our game, and they enjoyed the discovery in the bamboo forest, picking up mushrooms separately, and together taking a car ride to get to the further area. That is good. And some feedbacks mentioned that there was a shadow of themselves pairing, and that will like cover the mushrooms. So that is not good. And then more feedbacks like adding more butterflies can be helpful in the environment as well. And those are pretty good feedbacks and suggestions we will do with the feedbacks after the halves.
So with the technical issue basically solved right now, for the rest of the semester, we are going to focus on how to develop this fun game for 2-player in the cavern. So we are going to keep the naive interactions. For now, player just can move around the space without any UI instructions or tutorial to learn the game. And we also plan to make use of this zero vision, where you can maybe find a clue behind some rock or something. Also, because our current playtester really like the driving idea, so maybe we'll have physical prop with sound effect to enforce that experience. We might also plan a route for the players so they can move freely in the space instead of just controlling like forward. And also, we might have something like the tempo run to avoid some obstacles and then collect some treasure in the scene.
Then let me talk about the art style and the access we made. We want to adopt this fairy tale-like and a little bit magical-like style because Kevin needs a brighter color, and the style serves the story of the mole better. During making the assets, I first built a version with more detail and more realistic style. However, after using them in the scene, they cause a lot of laggings. Since Kevin plus head tracking is already a heavy draw for the performance, I modeled the bamboo, which I use a lot in the environment, and reduce the polygons to 1/10 of its original amount to reach a point that it balances the visual appearance and the performance. According to the style we want, this is the final asset and hand-painted textures I made for the flowers, bamboos, mushrooms, and grasses, and the bamboo shoots. And you can see the picture with a white background is how they looks like in the engine. And after adjusting the model, the scene looks smoother, but still not good enough. It turns out it's the grass causing the problem. Even using the most simple grass with 1 polygon per grass, thousands of them on the ground are still a heavy duty. Also, building an actual scene for the background is another burden for the performance. At last, we finally replaced painted grass with grass textures and replace the background with skybox. And since you already said in the demo video, it looks smooth enough for a player to immersively experience our game. And also, we're gonna replace the background with hand-painted skybox in our style.
Thank you, Candace. And talking about characters, we did a bunch of exploration from more realistic modes to more cute and playful modes. And then we decided to go with the playful style. And later in the making props, we're also thinking about world buildings. What kind those modes make with their hands, and what kind of vehicle they'll be right on. And here is the final model and cute animation rigged by Candace. And and then later, because we don't have a tech artist in our team, we find resources online to unify the art style of our game scene.
So, okay, I'm gonna do the recap. And Shroom Heads is a 2-player stereoscopic game in Cavern. And our game player will be Mouse collecting and stacking the mushroom heads on their heads. And this is an experimental project that aims to enhance the 2 players' interaction for Cavern. And thank you for listening to our presentation, and it's time for Q&A.
Okay, so you mentioned that you're going to replace, and correct me if I get this wrong, you're going to replace the background with a static, with a static shot background. Is that correct? Okay, how is that going to impact the parallax effect of things farther away?
As long as we control the player that they're not gonna move towards that static wall, it's okay. Because all the stereo vision is just gonna be object in our scene. The background is just for art performance, because we have 32 camera in the current space, and then that really heavy the GPU performance.
Thank you. You said that you've fixed the parallax problem and now it's right. Could you tell me more how you're determining right and wrong in that particular aspect?
Yes, so it would be considered as a windowing effect. So actually in the start of the project, like Steve gave us various research papers on it. So basically, if I want to explain it in a easy to know manner, it would be like imagine you see the world, but not with your eyes, but like with a phone camera, right? And as you move closer to the cavern screen, objects in the world will actually go away from the spectator's perspective to counteract the fact that your eyes are closer to it. So it will maintain an effect of the objects are staying in place as if you're actually walking in the game environment. So the cube will be an example. So no matter how you walk, it will always be there, physically in your eyes.
So does it feel better now to you?
Yes, it feels better according to our instructors, our playtesters, and ourselves as well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Oh, I got stuck on Chris's question here. Sorry. It's all right. There's probably maybe some perceptual study you could do to prove that it's right, or a computational study, but okay, I remember my question now. You created a prototype and you play tested the prototype and you came away with a bunch of features that maybe to add onto the prototype. But what about the temptation to take what you've learned from this first prototype, throw it out to make what you really want to make? Is there any thought about that on the team, or what works about this prototype that you want to stick with it?
Yeah, so as we mentioned before, it's kind of like technical exploration project. So our first half of the semester basically focused on solving the tech issue, including the head tracking problem, and then the two-player split screen and joint screen together. So our prototype is kind of like just our current plan for playtesting the technical part. We are definitely going to explore more fun interactions we can do in the camera space in the later semester, but we might also keep a part of it if like people just like it.
Right, I would like to add on to that, but a feature that we discovered that was very interesting for our player is that the fact that their physical movement with the head tracker is actually how the character moves, right? Like as they move closer to a mushroom to pick it up. So we realized that it will be much fun for the obstacle avoiding we mentioned. As just imagine tempo run, but you're not swiping your screen, but like actually dodging as a object comes towards you in a 3D space, and then you actually have to move in the scene to dodge it. That would be very fun in our minds.
Yeah, and also because we're a two-player game, we have to collaborate and split together. So player-to-player interaction is also one of the things we're gonna explore in the next half of the semester.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Team Brada, and we're presenting a real-time virtual production pipeline today. So firstly, introducing a little bit about the team. Rich and I are the producer of the team, and we have Aaron, Jesse, Xinyu, and Yue as our talented artists. And we have John and Ruth as our instructor and executive producers. And we also have Dak and Todd to be our SME and consultant who gave us a lot of insights from the industry and suggestions for the technical challenges. So before digging into our progress, let's have an impression about virtual production. So when we're talking about virtual production, I think most people are familiar with the green screen. It allows us to add virtual elements to our shooting videos in the post. And we have LED volume and in-camera VFX that provides the lighting on set and in-camera VFX as a background. And the motion capture is also widely used in the film, animation, and game production. And there are digital overlay in live events. Those are all examples of virtual production. But what exactly is virtual production? So we conduct our 12 weeks discovery project on virtual production pipeline. We divided our semester into different rounds with different lessons to learn, and aiming to documenting and discuss very executable pipeline at ETC. And our final deliverable will be a documentation and an Unreal project with template levels and some sequence we made from each round. So at the beginning of the 2 weeks, we conduct our research on virtual production. We found out that traditional film production is a linear process that moves from pre-production, concepting, planning, and the production phase, on-set filming, and then finally to the post-production and then distribution. While in the contrast, virtual production pipeline, it blurs the boundary between the different stages. With all the technology we mentioned in the previous slides, it allows us to move some of the tasks from the post-production phase into production phase and even pre-production phase, so that it's a more flexible, efficient, and economic way of production. It allows you, when you want to change the detail of the content, you don't have to go over from the beginning again. You can just iterate your content through the whole production. Besides the desk research, we also did some hands-on explorations. We test all the technology we have here at ETC. We tried motion capture suit, and we tried jet set with screen, and also tried the tracking cameras with in-camera VFX. And those explorations give us a clear direction for our future explorations.
For round 2, our main focus is to match real and virtual world. And here we will show our approach towards it. So we finally landed our theme on Alice in Wonderland. It symbolized the blend of real and fantasy, and also it allows us to play with different visual tricks. On the left is the initial visual concept. There is a fantastical room behind the painting frame. And later, we redesigned the room into a hallway to enhance the sense of depth. So when the audience looks right in the frame, the only thing they can see are the chairs and table. But when the camera rotates to the side, more details in the hallway can be revealed. Okay. This is the layout we plan to connect the virtual and the real. Even though we have limited display devices, we come up with using TV as the painting frame to connect the virtual space with the real world. And here is an overview of all the assets we created.
So for scene staging, we place the assets evenly in the virtual space to blend the foreground, midground, and background in a gradual way. And also, virtual production assets are different from both animation assets and game assets. So due to its real-time rendering environment, it requires lower poly counts, smaller size texture maps, etc. And also, comparing to game assets, virtual production assets should be capable of onset change. They should be iterated quickly, and they should blend with the real world. Here are a few renders that we did in the scene. And this is a demo video. From the window, we can see through and explore the inner world. For rendering iterations, we use ray tracing to simulate realistic lighting, and we iterated on the color choice and rendering to add more believability to the scene. Here are more rendering pictures.
And we changed the digital asset to match with physical assets. So if we want to take some close-up shots, we can just switch to shoot the physical asset. And we also designed a character and made a character using MetaHuman. We made a wig to ensure the continuity between different shooting days. And we changed the hairstyle to using an existing MetaHuman hairstyle so that we don't need to simulate long hair movement to save runtime cost. Jesse made the dress in Marvelous Designer to match with the physical prop, and we're going to wear a busto so it has a fixed shape and we don't need to simulate the dress movement for it. And we also designed the face makeup texture to match with the actor, and we did the test with the motion capture to make sure it's ready for runtime production. In addition, we made the texture procedurally. Iran made this texture so that it can be iterated quickly. For example, this wall is made in Substance Designer, so we can just change the parameters and the colors during runtime so it can fit with our scene better.
And in round 3, our main topic is to explore the dynamic content matching. For example, camera. And we have 2 demos. This is shot in an earlier stage on the LED television. And the second demo was shot in cavern. To the left, you can see it's the camera's point of view, and to the right is a behind-the-scene camera. So the way it works is the engine and the display will calculate the right image that's only correct to the camera's perspective, faking a sense of depth and faking the backdrop. And what's the pipeline that made us achieve this? we firstly investigated in the industry pipeline, and one example was to use a switchboard listener as a central panel to control and launch different Unreal instances on different machines. And these machines will talk to each other and keep themselves updated with version control. And once the switchboard launch them, they will collect tracking data from some of the instances and rendering data from other instances and display on multiple screens, which is the volume. While we are doing hands-on building this pipeline, we found our vibe tracker has some version issue and it's not compatible with the switchboard. So we dig in and found a Unreal version that allows us to render on a local machine. And it's enough for us because we're only using one television or the cavern.
So I'm going to introduce the shooting process from shot plan to shooting to post-production. So the biggest difference between a traditional storyboard and the virtual production storyboard is the emphasis on real virtual matching. So in this case, we divide the process into two steps. First, we came up with the sample shots to showcase the essence of virtual production, and the second is to convert these shots to a detailed shooting guideline. So let's take these shots, for example. When the shooting camera moves around, the viewpoint or the virtual hallway will change, and so as the direction of the actress's face. So we need to make it all clear on the shot plan to provide a detailed guidance for on-site shooting. And this is our shooting equipment. We have a Canon 5D4 with various lenses to choose, and also we have a DV for behind-the-scenes documentary. And during round 2 and 3, we've tried LED and cavern for in display, and we learned the constraints of both ways and find the solutions for each of them. For LED, it has a gorgeous resolution, brightness, color gamut, and refresh rate, which means we'll have a high-quality image output. But as you can see, the screen is small and the view is limited, so we must narrow our camera movement and choose a longer focal length to choose. And also, it has a severe light reflection problem, so we need to reduce the light sources and keep the light sources away. And the camera provides a larger view, so it's good for wide camera movement and angle change. But due to low resolution, brightness, and color gamut, the image quality will be limited. To fix this, we plan to use post-production tools like DaVinci Resolve to complete the color grading and VFX. And another problem is flickering. So the solution is to set up an appropriate frame rate and shutter speed to shoot. And the last is that the light source will cast our shadows on the camera, so we need to mark out our moving range to avoid shadows.
Besides functioning as a backdrop, a volume also provides accurate lightings for the subject on set. As you can see, this is a sample in a real volume, and virtual production film crew can change lightings on set real time into however they want, and it's providing high quality image because all the reflections and ambient lights are correct in this setup. So it's better than using green screen to do a lot of pre-production lighting adjustments. And in this round, we'll spend a week to explore this lighting emission and its interaction with props that are transparent and reflective. If we have more time, we can also set up miniature shootings in a mini volume that's gonna be setting up 3 television screens. And for the rest of the semesters, we will continue to refine our previous shots, adding more dynamic effects, adding more in-camera VFX shots, and then explore in the virtual production motion capture shots, where we have already set up all the pipelines. And for festival, we are going to set up in the green screen room a small virtual production film set where our guests can come in and experience how we do virtual production real time. In the end, our final deliverable will be a Unreal Engine project with template levels and all the previous sequences from the previous rounds, and a documentation for future even visual story or BVW rounds. And thank you. Now we're open for questions.
Thanks. So you mentioned that one of your deliverables is documentation. So for artists looking to work on a project like this in the future, are there some major takeaways that you guys have run into so far that you would really want to front? What are those? And how are those going to impact what you do for the rest of the semester? Don't have to go through everything, just maybe like one or two like big learning things that artists should definitely keep in mind when trying to do this.
We've included it in our previous lessons from the round 2 and 3, and these are mainly the limitations we found using equipments we have right now. And then we have documented these and then giving suggestion for future shooting plans and tell the artist to design through the design to the limitations.
I like to hear that you're planning already for festival and have the green screen room. I'm not sure if the guests are going to look at your compositions, or are they going to be composing things themselves in a time frame and using the tools you give them? So are they looking at what you make, or are they making?
They can make their DIY. Yeah, for example, we hand them the camera tracker, and then they can use their phone to match the virtual camera and their phone in order to film a clip that has parallax and depth to the television, and even be in front of the television, so playing as they are in the scene. Yeah, and also looking into the previous shots and on the other station.
As your follow-up question, so I think it's really cool that you guys are thinking about the different types of artists who will be working. Sometimes they don't all speak the same language in terms of pipeline. Are you guys going to include guidelines for how they should, like, how do you get a miniature painter, a big prop painter and modeler to talk to a 3D artist, to talk to a lighting artist in a production environment where they don't kill each other? So, how are you guys, are you guys thinking about that? Is that going into the documentation? Yeah.
For now, our documentation is mostly about setting how to set up this pipeline and the limitation we found. But it's a very good point, and we'll consider adding through our discovery in our future learnings.
And also, I want to add on to that, since we are a discovery project, and basically for each round, we have our own failures and we find out a solution to that. So we think that can also be the valuable lessons for the document for the future users of our package. So we document that as well. That will also be included into our final documentations for different devices and different scenarios.
Thanks, team.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, welcome to the half presentation for Team Gravitrix. We have 6 talented teammates in our team. We have Rochelle, me, Bella, Jesse, Cassie, Ryan, and Henry. The advisors for our projects are Jonathan and Ricardo. Our acting client and subject matter expert is Xpogo. They are a local company based in Pittsburgh that specializes in extreme pogo stunts, performances, and competition. Our main point of contact has been Will, the CEO of Xpogo, and he is here today. Thank you all so much for joining us today and for your support on the project. We're trying to make a game about extreme pogo sticking. The main goal of our project is to capture the fantasy of extreme pogo sticking, especially the punk rock spirit and this sense of freedom. We're also trying to inspire more people to try pogo and spread the awareness of this sport. A heads up for those who are in our quarters presentation, we had a major vision shift from our vertical platformer pitch to a more sandbox map, which we will show in a live demo right now. As you can see, we're trying to build a PC game that uses controller as our main input. We're using Unreal Engine 5 for a better quality and art style. When we enter the game, the player can use the left joystick of the controller to control the orientation of the character. The angle of the character hitting the ground will determine where the character is going. We also implemented the feature of a boost. When pressed and holding one of the A button, it will generate like a higher boost for the character for you to get over more difficult obstacles. We also implemented the feature of doing a trick. Right now, when you press B, the character will do one of the test tricks that we're implementing. Tricks will become a very important part of a game later in the semester, and we'll have more tricks and more combos in the game. As you can also see, we have a really funky, rhythmic background music going. Thank you for our external music producer, Tayo, for providing us with this really catchy music.
5, 4, 3.
And before Rochelle gets too addicted to the gameplay, let's go back to the slides. And we'll talk about the game production.
Thank you, Bella. Now let's talk about the production. So first is the main mechanics. As you see in the video, the player will use like joysticks to control the direction, and they also like press button to do like boost jump and tricks. Also, we have like collectibles in the environment for players to collect. And in the future, we plan to play a special collectibles called Few. The player can collect it, do like some crazy stuff we call like rocket jump, which is like advanced tricks will give your player a super high jump. So the goal, or like why we want to design this mechanics, is like to encourage players to pogo around the world, to explore, and also feel the spirits of pogoing. So for the game objectives, in story mode, the player must complete a set of like collectible objectives, and also like tricks objectives. For example, like there are 2 objectives for player to finish. So one is to collect 6 coins in the level, and also the other is like do some tricks. So also for the end of the game, the player will have to like reach the toppest point of the map, and that will unlock the free roam mode. And also give the player an emotion when they're overlooking the whole level at the top. Well, it will feel like a feeling of refreshing and pleasure, also a sense of conquest and achievement. And also there's some stretch goals mechanics that we're currently working on or we plan to do in the future. And come to the level design. So for the level design principles, our game code is Pogo Stick. And Pogo Stick is something that are more focused on vertical movement and less on horizontal movement. So we think that the level style should be like tight place filled with stacking objects and gives more vertical space and vertical varieties. So based on the design principles, we are building like 2 levels for now. Here's the map. So we have 2 levels. The first one is the tutorial level, and the second one is the main level. So in fact, the main tutorial level is part of the main level, which means like once the player finishes the tutorial level, the player can directly get into the main level through the tutorial level. And for the level goals in the story mode, in our tutorial level, we want player first like get familiar with the control of the pogo stick, and after that, the player can get to the red arrow position and to enter the main level. So in main level, the player have to like finish the game objectives and then reach to the toppest point of this main level. And then the game ends and will unlocks the film room mode. So that's basically about our design. Yeah.
Thanks. And for the environment art style, we want our game to be very industrial and cyberpunk. And for the emotion, as the pogo sport is very popular among the young generation, we want our emotion to be very energetic and vibrant. So we applied a lot of colorful and stylized material. And experience-wise, we want to create a very fun playground for the player to poke around at ease. And for the level elements, for the first tutorial level, we want it to happen in a storage yard, which contains a lot of cargo containers, boxes, fences, and neon lights. And after the player jump out of the storage yard, we want to build a small community for them to explore, which have some small buildings and sidewalks and a park for them to do tricks. And you can see on the right side is the scale of the environment. And shader-wise, we mainly use one post-processed material for the whole scene. Because we want our scene to look very stylized, we apply the toon shader combined with the outline. This is how it looks after. And we also use hatching lines for the shadow area and half-toon dots for the lit area. And for our effects, we mainly have two jumping effects. One is for the small boost jump, and the other one is for the super boost jump. And next, we'll have Jesse to talk about neon lights and character.
So to support the cyberpunk feeling of the environment, we have created some neon icons. And they also serve two other purposes. One is to provide some extra lighting in the scene, and the other is to help guide the player to traverse around the level, as these icons are very highly visible. And so many of them are in arrow shapes. And for our character designs, we hope to align with our client's wish, which is to propagate pogoing to the general public. So in order to do that, we have followed the idea of inclusiveness. So we have designed a bucket hats and the clothes, so in a way that it covers all part of the body, so that the character seems gender and race neutral. And we believe that doing some pogo tricks is one of the biggest fantasy of extreme pogo sticking. So we have rigged both our character and the pogo stick in order to have some animations. And these are some of the animation that we currently have. We have a default jumping state and a boost jump that could get you higher in the air. And we have one basic tricks. And we also plan to have more animation and incorporate them into our gameplay.
And here's a prototype of how the UI is going to look. So to contrast with the environment, we chose to use a more vibrant, bright, and saturated orange as our UI palette. On the top left corner are the objective of the game. On the bottom left is the indication of fuel for the rocket jump. On the right-hand side with the vertical bar is the air tank that will only appear when the A is pressed. And during this half semester, we made 2 visits to the Expogo headquarters because we want to learn more about these people as well as the pogo sport itself. So based on their music taste, we have this kind of funky and punk rock music as our background. And to capture the incense, we asked their feeling the feeling they get from pogo, and we also incorporate these into our game as well. And the main goal of this visit was to learn the physics of pogo because we really wanted to mimic how pogo works in real life. So we did a lot of study on how the tilting of the pogo and the air pressure in the stick influence the movement of the pogo. And they've also shown us 4 main trick categories: underleg, grab, flip, and stick movement. And during our second visit, the Expogo expert showed us some more advanced trick that we also wanted to bring into our game.
And the Pogo people also mentioned a perfect location for them was a skate park and some playground with a lot of boxes and stairs. Since we really wanted to create an environment that they can vibe with, these elements were also demonstrated in our games. To motivate the player to keep playing our game, we were curious about what the reward they wanted to get after they completed a very difficult trick. And most of them mentioned that they really want a very powerful pogo stick that can jump very high. And they wanted to use this pogo stick to explore more area. And next, Rusha is going to talk about the iteration.
Okay, so we had a lot of iterations from the feedback that we got from our quarters presentation, from the playtest nights, and also from our SME and client at Expogo. So the first part of the iteration is the level design and story. So initially, before quarters, we had a plan to have 3 different levels in our game. The first, which would be an industrial setting. The second, which would be like an urban city setting. And then the player would move on to a nature setting. But when we got feedback from our quarters and when we talked with our SME, we found that this was not matching the vibe of pogo sticking. So we iterated and changed it to have just 2 levels, that is a tutorial level and a main level, and the overall feeling to be a sandbox map with a lot of vertical elements. And the results that we got from it that we now have a consistent art style for both the levels, and also our scope is smaller, and we have less environment art assets to deal with, as we do not have a dedicated environment artist on the team. And this also encourages player exploration around the map, since the map is contained. The other part is the controls. So when we went to the playtest nights on week 5, we found out that the controls that we had back then were not intuitive for the player and were sometimes frustrating. That's when our joystick was adding force to the pogo stick and not moving it like in a contained way. The players felt that they did not have control of it. However, we changed it and we mapped the control of the pogo stick to the joystick, so now the players can't rotate it all the way around. And that made a significant difference in the player experience. So when we went to week 6, we got a lot of positive feedback. We also tested with naive guests and alumni who came recently to the ETC, and they gave us positive feedback. Some even said that they were willing to play even if there were no collectibles. So yeah. Next will be Bella.
The next step for our project will be after the fall break, we hope to have the tutorial level fully polished and start blocking out the main level. 3 weeks after that, we're hoping to have core game mechanics fully finished and a mainly finished main level. And after that, we're going to enter the polishing phase of our project, where we attempt as many stretch goal gameplay mechanics as possible and fully polish our game. Thank you so much for coming to our presentation. Feel free to scan the code for a download for our build and try our game. Thanks.
Looks really good. A question about the physics in the game, because obviously you're doing something where bouncing is really important, and I want to know how close you feel you are to accomplishing the vision you would have for what the character, both the animation and the translation and the physics of everything that happens when you bounce on a pogo stick. How close are you?
From what we imagined, I think we have some bugs to fix, but I think one of the goals for us was to make it fun, even though if you don't have any like collectibles or anything in the environment, just to move around in the environment should be fun. And I think we are closer to that. It's just that we need to make the transitions of the animations and like the physics a little bit smoother, but yeah, we are closer to completing it.
I will definitely download it and send you some feedback.
Thank you. Yeah, I think another balance we were trying to find is like mimicking the actual physics of pogo and like have it being a fun like game mechanic, game logic. And I think we found the balance between that, and so far the player and like the play testing has been giving us like positive feedback. So yeah.
you may have already done this, but how is your game different than other pogo games that might be on the market? It would have been great for you to like say, like, oh, we looked at some of these existing games and we talked about them, and this one failed this way, and this one, it's like you may have solved some things either aesthetically or through physics or something that separates your pogo game. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I think we actually did a round of research on like existing Pogo games on market. I think a lot of them we found were more of like either rage games or intended to be like a funny gameplay instead of like trying to actually mimic the feel of pogo sticking. I think what separates our game from that is one thing that we try to have the controls really mimic how pogoing in an environment feels like and have it being like an authentic experience instead of just using pogo as a character, basically.
The act of pogoing itself, I think, it's really rich and central to your work. And you did a lot with the visuals by leaning into cartooning to make them just look really playful. Are you going to do the same maybe with sound assets with pogoing, where the collision gets a really rich sound and the upward jump gets really rich sound to become more playful? Because right now the down hit almost seems like a little skip, a cloud, 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 cloud. It doesn't seem right. Are you going to keep playtesting that to really land it and then extend it to become more playful?
Yeah, so I think one of the other feedback that we received from when we playtested with an alumni was that matching the sound with the rhythm of pogo sticking. So we are definitely planning on adding like sound effects rather than just the background music to actually land the pogo sticking effect. Like, so when the pogo stick bounces, as well as depends, like the sound depending on the height of the pogo stick. So yeah, we are planning to work on that as well.
How high can these pogoers jump compared to how high you can jump in the game? And how fast do they move compared to how fast you move in the game?
I think in real life, the video that we demoed before with the Pogo Expert, I think that's probably very high height already. But in game, we definitely want it to be more cartoonish, and we want it to be like the fantasy of pogoing, so it's a little bit more exaggerated. We currently have the boost jump, where you kind of like go to the high point of the entire map. We later will also have like a rocket jump, where we will like shoot you even higher, and you can do like a combo of tricks. I think the idea of a rocket jump was also one of the fantasies that were told by the pogo players. They mentioned like, oh, like a rocket pogo would be really cool. And so
I think you got to find that upper limit. I think you should go too far and then bring it back.
All right, that's time. Thanks, team.
thank you.